WXYZ.com. We want to take you back to those live pictures we were telling you just moments ago that Amir Hekmati landing back on American soil and landing at Flint Airport right now. The man who spent 4.5 years in an Iranian prison has now landed back in his hometown of Flint. So many people waiting for this day. Stephen, we interviewed Congressman Dan Kildee a number of times over his tireless work to get Amir Hekmati returned and released from Iran. And that all happened, of course, over the whole Iran nuclear deal and everything that went on with that. But that was a big prisoner exchange, happened last weekend. Amir Hekmati was released, taken to Germany, where he was met by family members, also by Congressman Kildee. He was there as well. He talked to reporters, too, a little bit about what he went through. We mentioned that he talked about the idea that he had been put in solitary confinement for a long time during that and subjected to sleep deprivation as well. He was a former Marine and said he really depended on his military training to help him get through that time, as you can imagine. He didn't want to let the Marines down, I think is what I heard him say when he talked about just kind of, pushing through and doing what you can to survive and to stay alive. But can you imagine what he's feeling right now, looking out, knowing he's home?
Well, it's certainly been a long road for him, too, and being a political football that he has been, because his situation was such that the State Department tried to intervene at times and then couldn't, and then it was tied to different swaps at different times and different events, and it even tied to the Iranian nuclear deal, his release. And so how it eventually happened is still a little matter of speculation of what actually did that, but the Iranians did indeed release Hekmati just a couple of days ago, and he's had a chance in Germany to meet with his family and with the congressman and so forth, and get checked out at the hospital because it's been a long ordeal. As again, you said he was tortured and subject to all sorts of psychological issues also while in captivity. We're watching some family members right now actually are boarding the airplane before they all come off. So.
Oh, because obviously his whole family probably didn't make its way to Germany. We saw pictures where the immediate family was, but he did talk as well about the inhumane conditions that he survived while he was there for 4.5 years. Very inhumane and unjust pressures in detention. But again, as I said he didn't want to let any of my fellow Marines down. He's 32 years old. Imagine this. I believe he was going to see his grandmother, and he was picked
He wasn't there on a military mission.
He
was there on a family mission to see his ailing grandmother, and then he ends up getting picked up there and accused of spying for the United States, for the CIA, and of course that was all denied. But as a military member, I suppose that probably did not work in his favor at that particular moment. But again, he is out, and we're just waiting for him to come off the airplane here.
And the video you're seeing on the left there, I believe, is the press conference that he held that we saw yesterday. But he is now on that plane waiting to come home. It was interesting on the family's website that they put up, according to ABC News. The family alleged that for the first 4 months of his detention, he was held in a cell. Can you imagine this? 3 feet by 3 feet. His hands and feet were constantly shackled during that time as well. For more than a year, they say he was kept in solitary confinement. He actually developed, they say, severely limited vision during that time, which you can imagine that would happen if you were subjected to that. Also, I remember hearing about this as well, that he talked about cold water being poured into his cell when we talk about sleep deprivation. Apparently, they kept pouring cold water into the cell to keep him from being able to get any sleep. It's hard to imagine.
Well, and you take a look at him now. We saw the video of that news conference from just yesterday, and he looks great. I mean, you'd think that after what he's been through, and there's the picture of him again with his family members and with Congressman Kildee in the middle, but you'd think after an ordeal like that, how would you respond to something like that? So right now, as we take a look again at that news conference yesterday, he looks quite poised and quite put together.
It's incredible, because we also hear he went through some electric shocks during all of this as the Iranians were interrogating him. Shocks to his kidneys, whips to his feet, and mental tortures. Part of the mental torture, at one point, apparently those holding him came in and told him that his mother had been killed in a car accident. That indeed was not the case. His mother was alive, and you can just imagine the excitement that really everyone in Flint, a city that's certainly gone through its hardships lately and continues to, how they must be feeling to have their their homeboy back.
You also have to take a look at the family and what it's been through, because again, as I said, over these 4 years, he has become somewhat of a political football. There are moments where he was going to be executed. There were moments when he was going to be spending life in prison. Then he was going to get let go, and then he was not going to let go, and then suddenly the prison sentence was changed to 10 years. So, I mean, the family has been on this emotional roller coaster also, desperately trying to get Washington to intervene. Congressman Dan Kildee, by all accounts, has been just tenacious in trying to make this happen. And again, there was that nuclear deal that, at least for a while, this hostage and others were tied to. Frankly, I don't know if that ended up being the thing that got him freed, because it dropped out for a while, and then, I mean,
it was the day, though, that the Iranian sanctions were lifted, if you remember, earlier this week. So, and that was part of that deal. Yes, it was. He was freed with 4 other American hostages, as a matter of fact, held in the Iranian prisons. In return for us getting those 4 men back on our soil, ultimately, the U.S. released 7 Iranians who were either in American prisons or they were awaiting trial, according to ABC, for sanctions violations. And just to catch you up here, the plane landed just a moment ago, and we saw some people, we assume family members, getting on the plane, and there he is stepping off the plane now, back on U.S. soil, back on Flint soil here for the first time in 4 years. Can you imagine? How about that?
Amir Hekmati.
Looking so well, as you mentioned, Stephen, after everything he's been through. Held in solitary confinement for years, tortured by his family's accounts, and back now on American soil. Now we have a crew, obviously, with the camera there. We also have a reporter, Tara Edwards, is with him on the ground, and we're going to wait to see. It looks like he's going to give a short news conference. Now, we'll let our control room tell us if we're going to be able to hear this. Okay, we're waiting to see if we get audio from inside here. Obviously, it's a little bit of chaos just erupted here on the runway.
But despite all the difficulties,
you can hear something, right?
Thank God, thanks everyone's support, everybody from the president, everyday American. I'm standing here, healthy, full, and it is my head held high. So I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, again, we apologize. We're not really able to hear really well. We're just hearing from a distant microphone. It doesn't look like he's going to give a long statement, because he's already started walking away from the little scrum of microphones. I think I did hear him say they're thanking everyone for their support, all the way up to the president for what he did as well. But you have to think that he just wants to get home and have the cameras go away and just kind of get back to life. But an incredible story as he lands in Flint, Michigan, back now on American soil. Amir Hekmati home. We're going to take a break and be back shortly.